just got notification that Jason MacDougal won't be here. We've got a family problem, he said.
Well, you got MacDougal right there.
I know. I was thinking of bringing him, but he's working on it. Welcome to the Autosportradio.com 2018 show. I'm your host, Don Kay. We are live from McGillivray Speedway, 30th and High School in the beautiful town of Speedway, Indiana. If you're coming into town for the dirt track race or the Brickyard, you got to stop by McGillivrays. They got great food, great service, and of course all the adult beverages are ice cold. Tonight's show is presented as always by Honda HPD, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, Verizon IndyCar Series, and SVRA. A couple of things to talk about. First, I want to mention a gentleman that I haven't seen in a number of years. Didn't realize he's been living here. But you remember back some years ago when Sarah Fisher got the chance to move up from midget cars into IndyCar. The man who put that together is sitting here. His name is Mac McClellan. He's the one who got her going, got this program going. Mac was an outstanding midget driver on his own, but unfortunately, he, as does happen, had a little mishap, and it's now getting to him. He's got back surgeries. He's going to have another one on the 2nd of October. Hopefully next time he comes in, he'll come running in. But he's got a couple things in the works, which we will talk about when everything pulls together. But again, Sarah Fisher got the IndyCar as a result of his efforts. Excellent. Friday night we discovered while being here that there was a birthday party outside, and I didn't know what it was, or didn't even know it was a birthday party at the time, but come to find out that the owner of this fine establishment, Angela, had her birthday. I think it's probably her 10th or 12th anniversary of her 21st birthday. I hope she heard me say that. And I got to thank my IT guy back here. He gave up a refereeing job to be here tonight to make this thing happen, and everything's working right again. And he brought his Cinderella with him. How many watched Portland? Okay, all three of you, okay. How'd you like the race? Was it a good race? How'd you like the winner? Oh, he got 3 people. That's good. In my humble opinion, I think the cars that they have designed for this year work really well on road courses, particularly permanent road courses. They're all right on street courses. I think they need a little adjustment, but they certainly need to do a little bit of something for super speedways, and I'm sure that they will. But overall, not being a road race fan, I have enjoyed watching them. They are good races, so that's very interesting to hear. And don't forget, tomorrow night and Thursday night, the dirt track, Turn 3 at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. 118 entries, and it's supposed to get started at 5 o'clock, and they'll be running until about 2 in the morning. If anybody hits a fence, they got to have a problem. I'm surprised they're starting that late, but we're going to talk about that because I think it's kind of interesting. And, of course, I hope that since they moved the Big Machine Vodka Brickyard 400 later in the year, so it'll be nice and cool. I'm not sure that's going to work out so well, but I'm sure a lot of you will be there. I got a call from Eldon Rasmussen today. As most of you know, Eldon is a Hall of Fame sprint car driver. He was in the hospital. I said, "What got you there?" He said, "An ambulance." Why? My blood sugar went out of whack. He's diabetic. He had a crash in Pocono in the 70s, I think. And the result of which he ended up with diabetes. And I said, "Why, was your blood sugar high?" "Yeah, a little bit." "How high was it?" "A little over 1,000. "And you were alive?" "Barely." I said, "How is it now?" He said, "Well, it's 62 now." I said, "Well, that's a little on the low side, pal." But hopefully he'll get himself together and be back here. But he called to say he wasn't coming, and Dr. Tom got his seat, so everything's good back there. Also want to mention, last but not least, certainly, a reminder that Gas City at I-69 Speedway has a USAC Sprint Show this Friday, and they'd love to have you there. So if you get up to Gas City, watch the sprinters, good place to be. And we've mentioned on a couple of occasions of the 7-year-old. Strangely enough, the rookie quarter midget driver, Ava Luttrell, was back in action this past weekend at the Mini-Indy racetrack at the State Fairgrounds. She was 4th in her feature on Saturday night and finished 2nd on Sunday. This young lady is competitive. She said it's time for her to quit school and become a professional race driver. needless to say, her mother and dad didn't go for that idea, but you never know about these kids. Also want to mention that the Grant King Shops has launched a YouTube channel. It can be found under Grant King Racers at youtube.com. There's an array of videos already available, including the trailer of the shots of the interviews they did about Grant King. Videos will be unloaded on a weekly basis, and coming soon will be the video of Billy's. This Billy. I was thinking of Vukovic. Billy's interview with Eleanor Vogler and her daughter Dale, and just in time for the Rich Vogler Classic this Saturday at Lucas Oil Raceway. And incidentally, they will also have the Rich Vogler craft car will be out there. So when you get out there, take a look around and look them up. Grant King Racers at youtube.com. Now, before you doze off on me, there's more than usual tonight for some unknown reason. I have a gentleman that I've been trying to get in here, but he works, strangely enough, until later in the evening from time to time. But I assume he took this week off, I guess, so he can drive, because he will be a part of the dirt track event starting tomorrow night. And he's driving a vintage midget. We're going to find out all about it. This young man has been driving sprint cars and midgets for many years, very successful career, and he's coming back to run the dirt track. In fact, he's been running this year, I just discovered. We're going to find out how things are going and what he thinks about what's coming up in the next 2 days. Please welcome Mr. Roy Crothers.
Hey Don, I'm not driving a vintage midget. I'm driving a modern midget.
Modern midget,
yeah,
upgraded.
I'm racing in the race.
I see.
They will have 6 vintage midgets there both nights.
Yeah.
But I'm running a Stealth with a Fontana in it.
Well, then I'm not going to go. I thought from our conversations earlier this year that you had kind of put your cars in mothballs.
Well, this isn't my car.
You hadn't quit driving, you just quit owning.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. I never retired. I just kind of
slowed down.
Yeah.
I see. What do you think of this idea that they got? And to me, I can't imagine with 118 cars starting at 5 o'clock.
Well, when you go to Putnamville or Bloomington or wherever, if they have 5 classes of cars, you're going to have that many cars if you add all the classes together.
Oh, I guess I hadn't thought of that. But yeah, they got 118 entries. Huh. But do you think it's a good idea?
I think it's a great idea. I think it's, for guys like, well, not even guys like me, I'm just lucky that I'm able to do this at all. But for guys that are racing midgets now and sprint cars, it's an incredible thing that they get to do and that I get to be part of too.
How much do you race anymore?
Oh, I don't know, maybe 10 times a year with my sprint car.
Yeah. You don't run midgets?
I haven't, no. I haven't been in a midget in probably 20 years.
Yeah, I remember seeing you, but that was a long time. Well, I had hair back then too.
I did too. Well, a little bit.
You work for UPS, right?
I do.
And you told me that you would have trouble getting here at 7 because, what, do they give you extra work because you're fast?
No, the job that I have, they don't have any real set hours. It just depends on what run you're on. I don't deliver. I drive a semi. So.
So you're the one that takes it in, drops it off, and says, "See you later."
Yep.
Ooh. I know they work around that. Something I've never seen is a damaged UPS truck.
I have. Not mine, but I have.
But I've never. What's the matter? Oh, you're waving at somebody. What? Oh. Okay. Hold you close. Oh, the microphone. I thought it wanted me to hold Fluffy closer. I don't think that'd be a good idea for her. Anyway, what got you started in racing? Now, Crothers, there's been a bunch of Crothers racing. What got you started?
I've kind of always been around it. I can't remember a time that I didn't want to be a race car driver.
I remember I think it was in Lonnie's house one day, and on the kitchen table he had a midget engine all in pieces. And needless to say, there was oil around. I believe that's where I was.
Well, Lonnie wouldn't have been working on it. It would have been somebody else.
Well, I don't know. But did he have it in his kitchen?
Probably.
Would that be?
Probably. Probably his wife Paula probably was building the motor.
Well, I thought, boy, this is an odd way to do things. But I guess you do what you got to do. Is there a track that suits you better than any place? I mean, do you like a certain track? Have you tried this one, by the way?
I have not. Today was the first time I've seen it. I think I'm going to like it.
Are you a dirt? Or you don't care?
Both. Yeah, I don't care. I like to race.
What's your favorite track up to now?
I only ran Ascot one time, the last Turkey Night race there. I liked it an awful lot. I liked Terre Haute. I liked Sun Prairie. I liked Winchester.
And so since you haven't driven a midget car in a while, that kind of tells me that you didn't go to the Chili Bowl.
No, I haven't. I think 99 was the last year I tried to run the Chili Bowl.
Yeah. What is it about racing that you get into it and you just can't walk away? You can't say, that's it, I'm done, I'm off into the weeds.
I wish I knew. I've tried to figure out other things to do, but nothing ever seems to fill the void.
Yeah, that's my problem, too. I keep getting told you're too old for this, but I enjoy it. I like it. I get to talk to guys like you that when you have the opportunity to come on here. There's a lot of super talented young people around today, and nothing against any records that they've set. But back when you started, when you went to a Silver Crown, if you ever ran Silver Crown, there'd be 30, 40 cars in there.
Yeah.
And for Jack Hewitt to have won the race he did against a competition is phenomenal. Now, could Kody have done the same thing? Maybe, because he's a pretty good driver.
Kid's pretty good.
Oh yeah, but the competition isn't quite. Although I have to say, and looking at car counts, USAC this year, their car counts are picking up.
Yeah.
And they're starting to move up. Do you run any other series besides USAC?
Well, I haven't run USAC since probably 1999.
Oh, you don't run.
No.
What do you run?
Well, I've got a vintage club that I organized, vintage sprint car club. There's 20 of us maybe that have cars, but getting 10 of us to the track at the same time is about all I've been able to do. It's called the American Vintage Sprint Car Association. We tried to run Bloomington last week. We got rained out. We only have one more race left up at Daugherty Speedway. And, well, also we're going to do an exhibition race at Raceway Park when they have the super modifieds there.
Oh. You hear she's cheering? She's going to be there. She'll be there front and center, won't you?
Hey,
You'll
who's
be
that old
looking
guy?
for Roy's autograph. Can I have your autograph?
There's a guy running the midget race that's sitting over there that's older than me.
Really?
Yeah.
The only thing that would be older than him would be dirt.
I didn't park in the handicap spot. I wanted to leave it for you, John.
Have you spent any serious sheet time?
No, I haven't.
I know you were laid up, but that was for a knee problem that had nothing to do with racing.
Yeah, no, I've never been.
Never had that opportunity.
No.
What a shame.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you missed anything? No. Who are some of the toughest guys you've raced against in your career?
Well, Rich Vogler would be the toughest. There's not any thinking about that. Mac was awful good at the speedrome when I ran against him. He was, for a while he was unbeatable there.
Was that where he went for his weekly paycheck?
I think he did for a while, yeah.
What the hell are you waving at? Flies? Oh, boy. He's trying to say he was the toughest.
I remember watching Johnny when I was a little kid.
Uh-oh. I think when John gets up, we're in trouble. We're all in trouble. So,
if I could,
sure.
This whole midget deal came about for me. A friend of mine, Johnny Pappas, who is involved with the restoration of the Boyle Race Shop. He called me and said, "Hey, there's this midget race at the Speedway, and I want to be involved in it." And I said, "Well, what, you want to drive?" And he said, "No, I want you to drive." And I said, "No, John, you don't want to do this." He wanted to build a car. I said, "I don't think you realize what all's involved and all the things that you have to have besides just a car and how much it'll cost." And he said, "Well, how can we do this?" And I said, "Well, John, I don't really want to do it." And he couldn't figure out why. And I told him, "Hey, there's these kids that are going to be running, and they're going to be out for blood. They think Roger Penske and Chip Ganassi are going to be in the stands watching them and giving them an IndyCar or a NASCAR ride. And he goes, well, you run good. And I said, yeah, but it's not the same thing. These are old guys that I'm playing around with that aren't race car drivers. These guys are race car drivers. But to make a long story short, Johnny Pappas put this whole deal together for me, and with the Boyle Race Shop's involvement, and he also has the museum involved in the car. He does a lot of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Museum. I say the museum. I think everybody knows what I mean. But
yep.
but he does a lot with them, and they're also on the car. And we're going to go out there tomorrow and have fun and do the best we can.
Well, whose car is it? If he didn't have one,
we leased it. I believe he's going to buy it, or he says he's going to buy it. He's trying to put a deal together to buy it after the race is over.
Has he mentioned anything to you about would you like to drive it next year?
He's already talked about that, yeah.
And your thoughts on that?
We'll see.
Come on. Oh, she wants to drive. Fluffy wants to drive.
We can't get a low enough gear for her. Inside joke there.
I think, when they put that track in for Tony for his last appearance there, they put it, I think, turn 4. And they started talking. There was a pretty good interest in this thing. Maybe you ought to carry it on. And I understand USAC has spent a lot of time and effort in putting things together. I know Harding said, you need dirt? I got all you need. I got to get rid of it. I'll give it to you. So we've hauled in there, I think, 1,000 loads of dirt for the track. And when I had Kevin Miller, he said, I never realized how much it costs to put a pole in a racetrack. I said, really? How much is it? He said, it's over $1,000. I said, how many poles you got? 52. Well, we know how much is involved in that. But the interesting thing is they're going to level it after the race, seed it this fall, and in May they'll park cars and they'll put it all back exactly as it is today.
That's hard to believe after seeing what I saw today.
Why is that?
It just looks like a permanent track to me.
It does. But I think it does actually. But when you think of how many cars it's space that's taken up at $25 or $30 or whatever they charge, I think maybe, I don't know. But it should be fun. It should be a fun race. I know the track looks like it's going to be fast.
It's going to be a racy little track.
Yeah. Boy, I don't know. It's going to be how many are going to go to the short track? I didn't hear Howdy say anything. Where, to and from the track, from your house? I see. Oh, boy. Is Shirley going to drive you there? Howdy, is Shirley going to drive? She going to drive you? Yeah. Obviously you said one of the toughest guys you ever raced against was Rich Vogler. Who else gave you?
Well, he wouldn't have been one of the toughest. He would have been the toughest.
All right, the toughest. Did his car suddenly get wide when you try to pass him?
I only passed him once that I can remember.
Why is that?
Because he was usually passing me.
Oh. Now, I used to watch Mac way back. I had hair back at that time.
I think Heidenreich even used to watch him when he was a kid.
The lucky thing is he can't turn around and say anything. He might hurt himself.
I can outrun him.
I can outwalk him, I think. But the best thing is the best medicine he's got now? The gal across the table from him.
Heidi, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I knew her back when I didn't have hair then either, come think of it.
I've known her and her family pretty much my whole life. Her dad was, in my eyes, a famous car owner.
And whose car did he own? I mean, his own, obviously. Who drove for him?
You'd have to ask Kody who all drove for him, but his name was Gary Hill, and he had fantastic race cars.
Really? I do recall the name. There's so many back then, and oh, Tim drove for him? Who? Oh yeah, this Mac McClellan. Okay. Roger? Really? He did pretty well.
Yeah.
Did you only drive for yourself when you owned your own cars? Did you do your own
I drove
driving?
for Gene Krush and the Midgets most of my career, but I drove for a few other people. Probably the highlight of my career, I got to drive for A.J. Watson in his Champ Dirt car, or Silver Crown car, whatever you want to call it. They'll always be Champ Dirt cars to me. But
yes, I agree.
his car might have been a little outdated when I drove it, but to me that was still probably the highlight of my career, getting to drive for AJ.
Really? Yeah. He was, it's interesting. He built Indy cars back in his day, and they cost him a whopping amount of money at the time, $12 grand. And he was building copies, selling them for almost $250,000. The same, I mean, not the same car, it was new, but boy, things have changed, haven't they?
They sure have.
And I just saw the Mecum auction, and I happened to see it when they were putting out the 94 Indy car that won the 2014 Indy car that won the 2016 100th racing of the 100. It went for $1,025,000.
Wow.
I don't know if it had an engine or not. I would say for that it probably would have to, I would think, but it's a lot of money. How much do you think you could get for your vintage cars?
Nowhere near that.
This vintage series that you started up, how old do the cars have to be considered vintage?
Oh, well, there's really not an age limit on the cars. They're now non-down tube cars. They're not allowed to have any side panels that cover the driver, so you can see the driver. We've got some old Gamblers, some old Nances. My car is a Osborne car, Lee Osborne car. It was built in 1988, in the winter of '88.
Somehow I don't think 88's that old. Maybe it's because I'm getting old. What do you think, Bill? Is 88 old? No.
30 years.
Oh. I guess I wouldn't have been drawing unemployment. I mean, drawing Social Security back then, would I? No. Okay. It seems to me that everyone I've talked to through the years in the races that I used to go to frequently, that sprint cars were the number one car that everybody really, really loved to drive. And if I'm not mistaken, for the most part of the time, if you had a midget, the midget engine cost you more than a sprint car engine.
They still do.
Oh,
I was always kind of a midget guy, just because that was what I grew up around and what I knew. But a modern Toyota engine now is like $56,000 for a midget engine. When I was racing and Mac was racing, I only had $4,000 in a Volkswagen that I ran at the Speedrome. That was a lot of money to me when I was 20 years old, but it's not $56,000. I don't know how people can even do it today.
Why is Toyota such a hot? Even at the Nationals, you got a lot of the top fuel cars run Toyota. Now, Toyota didn't build an engine like that for a truck. Why is Toyota such a hot commodity? And the NASCAR as well. And they're winning.
I can't really answer that because I haven't been around the midgets a lot lately. From what I understand, though, they're about 30 horsepower more than everybody else and have a ton of torque, and they're just the engine to have right now. I'm going to be running a Fontana. I hope it's going to be good enough for this week. We're probably 40 horsepower, 50 horsepower down from a Toyota, but the torque should be comparable. I'm hoping that's enough to help us out, but that's just the engine right now.
Yeah, but $56,000. I'd have to go see Carl and borrow some money to get an engine. Holy Toledo. Is that hurting the sport? The car counts seem to be halfway decent.
Well, I don't think there's as many races as there used to be.
Well, that's the other problem, yeah.
We used to get pretty good car counts back in the day. I think we did. I think it's hurting the sport personally. But I'm just an outsider kind of looking in nowadays. But I'd like to see it more accessible to everybody so that people could afford to do it.
Yeah, well, that seems to make sense. And when you heard what Dan Anderson is doing with the Indy Lights, cutting the costs and making it affordable, and I guess they've got some teams that are looking to come into the Lights to get them from 7 and 8 cars up to 10 or 12 they're talking about for next year. So cost is a huge factor, without question. It always has been. But the numbers, you listen to them now and you say, but $4,000 deal, like you said, for Volkswagen, that was a lot of money in the day as well.
Yeah, but it was doable. It was real doable. I just was a regular working guy at 20 years old making $10 an hour, and I was able to somehow always do it, I couldn't do it today, and I make a lot more money than that now.
Jeez, I hope so. How long have you worked for UPS?
30 years.
30 years. How many more years are you going to continue to hustle for them.
Well, I'm waiting until the Grant King shops gets going really well so I can get a job sweeping the floors there.
There you go.
He didn't say paying. Good job. He said job.
Oh.
I did work at that shop a couple different times in my life. Just about everybody that ever raced did.
Yeah, at one time or another was there.
Yeah.
And it was funny to listen to some of the interviews. Some of the drivers said, yeah, Grant was a great guy, and there was a couple of well-known names that said, I didn't like him at all.
Well, no matter what they said about him, I'm going to tell you something. I've never met anybody in my life that worked harder than that man.
Oh, no question about it. And what he accomplished on shoestrings, literally, and some of the promises he got for money, he went ahead and built the cars, and then the money didn't come through, and they were still at the track.
He'd work all night, go up to his house to take a shower, to try to wake up to come back down and work again, and he'd fall asleep while he was in the shower. And I mean, I saw that firsthand when I was a kid. You know, that man had a work ethic second to nobody.
He was quite a guy. He was like to me, Andy Granatelli was way ahead of his time, and I think Grant was as well. That he knew what it took to build a car, and it was successful, and the cars he built were successful. And there's still a number of them around, isn't there? Quite a few of them around. Amazing. How much longer do you think you can drive and be reasonably? I mean, you drive in this. You don't drive an iPower or any of that at the time. You just do
I've just been running my vintage deal. I did go last weekend to Charleston, Illinois, and I ran in a regular sprint car race with my old vintage sprint car, and it was a weekly show there, and started last in my heat race, ran third, and ran fourth in the feature. So I went there to get a little confidence build up for this week.
Now, the only problem with that is you can't take your vintage sprint car over across the street.
Well, really, this will probably be the best midget that I've ever driven as far as horsepower and everything. It's going to be a good car. I wish that we had maybe a little more engine, but it is what it is, and we're going to do the best we can with it.
With 118 entries, you ain't the only one that's down on horsepower, I'm sure.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I don't think you're going to need a lot of luck whether you've got a great car or a bad car. It's going to be like the Chili Bowl, where you've got to have a perfect night, or you might, or one mistake and one problem, and you're going to be in trouble.
Well, it should be fun. I know there's a lot of people are planning on going. Bill, are you and Fluffy going? Oh, see, he's not. He's up in the air. Well, that'll probably kill the crowd. If they know you're not going to be there, they'll kill the crowd. I'm looking forward to going out tomorrow and watching you. I'm seeing you in a midget, which you said you hadn't done in quite some time, and I didn't realize it was as long as you said, but I have no reason to doubt you. So it should be interesting to watch how you do, and as you said, these kids, they don't know what sheet time is, so look out. 15,000 a win. Woohoo.
Yeah, I don't think that to anybody really it's about how much it pays to win. I think it's a midget race at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and it doesn't matter what it pays. Everybody's going to want to win.
Oh, yeah. And to be in the first one that they have, and I saw Doug a couple of weeks ago, and I said, you're going to run that more than once a year. He said, nope. Once a year, that's all we're going to do. We don't want to compete with any of the local tracks because obviously they'll draw and we'll hurt them. So he says, nope. Of course.
Well, and if they ran more than once a year, they probably wouldn't draw the crowd that they'll draw for one race.
No question. I think the ticket sales are in the 8,000 to 10,000 bracket so far, if I'm not mistaken. So you'll have a lot of hopefully your fans from yesteryear will show up to watch you run again.
Both of them.
Oh, yeah, really? It won't be all three, just the two of them. Okay. I'll be there. Mac might be. Are you going to be there? Yeah, Mac will be there. Heidi will be there. You've known her a long time. She's still kind of cute, Anyway, I wish you well. Thanks for taking the time to come in here tonight. I wasn't aware that you were available, but when I was told you were, I said, absolutely. See if you'll come on in, and you did, and I appreciate it.
Well, thanks for having me. And again, the car I'm driving is involved with the museum, and I would urge everyone to come to the IMS Museum. It's an incredible place. It's incredibly inexpensive to go there, and if you're a race fan, you'll love it. And when the Boyle shop gets done, I would urge everybody to come down and check it out. It's going to be a fantastic place also.
Are they building it like Billy did with Grant's shop, put it back the way it was?
As much as they can, yeah. A lot of it was already gone when they started, but it's going to be really, really close, and they're going to have an event center there where you can rent it out and have parties and weddings, and I believe they're going to have a microbrewery, and they're going to have a little small museum. It's going to be a great place.
A microbrewery. Bill, have you thought of that, putting a microbrewery in? Oh, I'm sure she did. I can't imagine why, but... Well, listen, good luck tomorrow and Thursday, and be out to watch it. Hope you have a good time. Hope it's fun.
It's going to be fun no matter what we do, because we're going to be at the greatest place on earth.
That's right. Are you disappointed that you never got to run the 500?
Well, yeah. I mean, that's what everybody dreams, or everybody I know that drove a race car dreams of, and that's what I dreamt of my whole life. I'm sure that's what Mac and Billy and all the other drivers that are in here tonight, what they wanted to do. It's, if you strapped in a race car, that was the goal.
Well, I never had the urge to drive one. I never got to sit in one when we pushed it out. I was the one pushing the car out to I changed the right front tire a number of years, and that was before they had a speed limit. I didn't realize how really dumb that was.
Hey, speaking of speed limits, the first SVRA vintage event they had, Heidenreich was there, and he was in a Champ dirt car. And I saw him go 130, 40, 50 mile an hour. So I decided, man, I got to do this. So I took my vintage car to the SVRA event, and I think between John and I, we're the reason that they can't have sprint cars there anymore.
There's a funny thing that happens. Anything John's been involved in, they end up stopping it for some reason. I'm not sure why that is. Well, good luck to you. It'll be fun to watch you two guys out running, and the other ones, it should be fun. 118 entries. That's going to be a lot of racing in a relatively short time, starting at 5 o'clock.
Well, thanks for having me, Don.
It's always a pleasure. I see you every so often, get a chance to chat every so often, but glad that you came here. Thanks very much.
Hey, one more plug. I think my wife came in the back there, and she's made a lot of this possible too by doing without a lot of things for a lot of years so that I could drive race cars.
Roy Crothers, get out and see him race this weekend, tomorrow and Thursday. He's been around a long time, and who knows, maybe you get a package from UPS and it was on his semi that brought it in. My next guest is sitting here with a big smile on his face. I don't know what he's smiling about, but we'll find out. Tonight's show is presented also by Sam Pierce Chevrolet in Daleville, Indiana. You'll find out why you got to go to the country, which Daleville is the country, to get the best price in the country. And you'll also find out why Sam is always rated at the top of customer satisfaction. Take I-69 north to exit 234, go east 1 mile, and you will see him. You can't miss him. That's Sam Pierce Chevrolet. And if you want to find out what driving IndyCar is all about, you got to take a ride in a two-seater. So go on to IndyRacingExperience.com, find a date, or call Shonda at 317-243-7171. Ask for Shonda Kennedy. And if you go online in the promo box, put SJ1, you get a 50% discount. Or if you call her, tell her SJ1, and you'll get the discount. But take a ride in a two-seater. You'll find out why these people, these guys and gals, love driving them. Are you looking for insurance for your home, your car, or commercial business? Do what I did. Do what a lot of us have done. They called Mike Pardee at VP Insurance, located at 5004 West 16th Street in Speedway. You'll find you get better coverage for less money, and if you have a problem, Mike is there to help you. Give him a call. Number is 317-248-0070. That's Mike Pardee at VP Insurance, 317-248-0070. And there's only one race left in the IndyCar season, but if you're not a member of the IndyCar Nation and you go to a race, you're making a mistake, because there's all kinds of things that you get, all the VIP benefits and amazing experiences. And all you have to do to join is go online to IndyCarNation.com, and in the promo box put Don K, DONKAY 15. You get a 15% discount on a championship or a legend membership, and all kinds of things you can get by being a member. Also, if you are a vintage fan, as Roy was talking about, you need to go to svra.com, and you'll probably find a story in there why these two guys got the sprint cars banned from SVRA. But it's a great magazine, the Vintage Racing Quarterly. You need to subscribe to it. They got great stories. And some of the cars that you knew back in the day are out running again today, and you find out who's got them and who's running them. The next event for SVRA will be this weekend at Watkins Glen, the 6th to the 9th. If you're in the New York area or anywhere in the area, go to the Watkins Glen International Raceway to see the SVRA. Great cars, great show, a lot of good people, and you get to meet some great drivers that are there. My next guest is a guy that has been already said as a troublemaker. He has, usually if he's got something he doesn't agree with, he will hesitate to tell you. And I'm hoping I don't do anything that he doesn't agree with. He might tell me as well. He's been racing for many years. He's just a great guy and loves the sport, obviously. And he's here, along with the young kids, to run at the dirt track at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. He was kind enough to come by tonight. He's one of the greats. Please welcome Johnny Hot Rod Heidenreich.
Well, Don, you know, they say when you're in a crowd, you should start out with a joke or kind of relax people and do some things. And Roy, really, these race cars are still all the same. They're a little bit lighter. But the biggest thing is all you need is a computer in your toolbox, and then you'll be good. I got this engine, an SB2 Gertie, and I'm putting all these parts on. I thought, where's the magneto? There's no mag. It was a box and all the coil wires and stuff. So I'm looking at it, and I said, now how the heck do I set the timing on this thing? So I call up Tim Sosby, who freshened the motor, and looked at it for me, and he said, oh, you need a laptop and a plug to go into the side, and you go in there. And I said, so I spent a day and a half trying to find a plug to fit this thing to set the timing. And I finally got tired of looking for it, so I went to my buddy Darryl Saucer, and I went down to his shop, and he had the computer, he had the laptop. At first I took the whole car down. He said, why'd you do that? Just bring me the box. So I drug the car back to my house. I took the box out. I said, here, now there's the damn box. So he plugs it in, and this graph comes up and all this stuff on the computer screen. He says, now see, you're starting at 55 degrees. We've got to take 24 away, and then at 5,000 RPMs, 2 more degrees. And I'm like, just set the damn box away. All I want to do is hold the steering wheel.
And push the pedal.
And push the pedal. Then another quick joke.
Go ahead.
I'm stealing this one from my buddy Richard Petty. At the PRI show, maybe some of you folks were there. But it was just hilarious. Richard's sitting up there with his black cowboy hat, leaning back in the chair, and they said, so Richard, he says, how's things going nowadays? He said, well, back when I was a driver, and when I was a kid, truck drivers and farmers made darn good race car drivers. They had big arms, they were used to the big steering wheels. Farmers could see the lay of the land, the grooves and stuff. Tommy Hendershitz from back east and so forth did a good job. And he says, Hendricks invited me down to Charlotte to a test. And what really confused me, I'm walking on, there's all these people around for 2 stock cars. He said, why do you need so many people? He said, well, 20 of them are engineers. So he said, I scratched my head, and you know what? 10 o'clock at night, I got in my car to roll out, and I said, I don't think I ever did see the damn train.
Well, that's it for tonight.
No, there's more. Wait, no, but boy, get back to the Speedway, Don. I've been out there several times. IMS, when I was a kid in the 60s, I've been doing this stuff, holding the steering wheel in my hand since I was 4.5 years old, and that's 58 years coming this year at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. 58 years I've gotten dirty, stood behind pavement cars, midget sprint cars, mini sprints, modifieds, all types of cars all over the countryside. And I must admit, and a lot of you folks probably remember, I'd be working on my quarter midget, and back in the day in the 60s, there was no TV coverage. You listened to the radio, and what a phenomenal way to listen to a race. They're coming off a 2, he's taking the outside, he's taking a peek, and then the next guy pick it up. Oh, he's going high, he's going low. The excitement was just unbelievable. And when they now announced that NASCAR was coming to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, I thought, I always looked at the Speedway as like the final epitome. I mean, just the phenomenal place, the final ground to go to, A little bit like when you were in school, you always had a crush on a girl or you had a crush on a guy and you always wanted to go out with them, but you never did. But you could make up anything you want up here because, you were interested but never had the opportunity. But now as time goes by and you think about it out there, and I'd sat there and George Snyder, you'd listen to him qualifying and so forth. Quick story on Snyder. I said, Foy, he came in at Bob's shop a couple of years back. Why don't you give Snyder some more track time so he could qualify a little better and so forth? He looked me square in the eye. He says, Heidenreich, he said, the more track time I gave him, the slower he went. So I kept him hungry like a dog in a junkyard. But now, again, now with NASCAR there, I was out to the quarter midget races. IMS has really turned around. When you think about that track sets there, one event a year just wasn't paying the bills. I mean, it eats a lot of money to keep that place gorgeous. I went out to the quarter midgets. They had go-karts on the road course. They keep expanding. A couple of times I went out there and I thought to my car owner, Johnny Givens, he's 86 years old. He's owned midgets for 58 years. So we're going to call ourselves Fossil Racing. We both have over 100 years between us. But we went to the track. My buddy Brad Knopfsener, it doesn't stop at the competitors on the racetrack. Brad Knopfsener's handling Brady Bacon's car with Frank Manafort and Bob East and Keith Coons. And not only the guys on the track, the 118 competing, there is so much talent walking through the pits, in the grandstands, people around here. I mean, it's just a happening. And when I get down the backstretch, I told my owner tonight, Johnny, we're sitting there in my Jeep going down there. Of course, I learned from Skip Matzak, you don't ask for permission like Tony Stewart said. You do what you want and you beg for forgiveness on Monday. But I just waved at security and drove right on by and drove all the way back to the track. I get back there and Levi Jones comes over and says, oh, so you're the guy that Jeep security called back and said somebody ran through the security deal. But anyway, I drove back there, and you can just appreciate the gorgeous golf course of the Speedway, the racetrack, the road course going across. And it was 1.25 miles. You enter the tunnels in the middle of turn 1 and 2, and the racetrack's almost down to 3. And it seemed like it took forever just to get to the racetrack. So you're going to be there around the Indianapolis Motor Speedway and all its prestige, the racetrack. They did a phenomenal job. Scott and Reeves from Kokomo there. The track layout, you were talking earlier, what they've done is the backstretch closest to the third turn in the short chute is a removable soft wall. Turns 4 and turns 1 and coming into 2 is a permanent wall, and they will dig that out and level it out and so on and so forth. But they did a really unique track. The beauty of midgets, we were talking earlier about the difference between the cars. A midget, like if you pull in your driveway and you see a little rabbit crouched down in the grass and your headlights hit that rabbit, he springs up and he darts left, he darts right, and before you know it, bam, he disappears. You know, that's a midget. Very agile, very, very quick reacting, very responsive. You know, so at this track, what they did is they extended the front straightaway as the longest chute. So in front of the grandstands, they put some pretty good banking into 1 and opened up turn 2 with some pretty aggressive banking. So perfect where the people are going to see a big high-speed slide job run into turns 1 and 2 to mix things up. Then it's a D-shaped sweeper, so you can carry momentum on the outside and come into turn 3. But then what they did is they rolled the banking to about half of the banking going into 3, which is going to slow them down. They're going to maybe try a slide job, but then when you come off of 4, it J-hooks back down. So it's perfect. It should slow the guys up and stack them up a little bit in 3 and 4, but then all bets are off going into 1 and 2. It should be a really good event. They've done a great job out there.
Was there any question in your mind when you heard about it? You'd drive it? You'd race it?
No, absolutely not. Since my car accident, I've had 7 surgeries on my right ankle. I don't have. When you drive a race car, Silver Crown, the miles, and the midgets. You basically, when you're on the floor with the throttle, a lot of times you just relax your muscles in your foot. You don't really lift. You just breathe the motor a little bit. And as you relax, all right, Carruthers.
What did that say? I missed it.
Yeah, something about kicking something. I don't know. But, you know, you relax your foot and you feel that muscle in your foot as you feel the RPM of the motor and you work it. My foot's more like an on and off switch now. It's very limited with ankle motion. So working with Bob East and some other things, we put the throttle pedal off the motor plate. So I can use the tips of my toes. I've been running the D2 midgets like at Putnamville and some of the smaller tracks. It's a little bit slower, and I'm getting the feel of how to get throttle control again. Then we just finished off last night. The other thing that made sense to me, and I think Poncho and so forth, I put a heel block behind me. And my first midget, Roy, I ran was a Curtis Offie. And back then, the belly pan was where the throttle was, and it had a door hinge and one of those old gas pedals. It was like a foot with wraps around it and stuff. and that's why you had to pump the fuel about every couple of laps, make sure you had some good fuel pressure and stuff. But anyway, I went back to the same thing because now when you're running around a track, if I lock my heel so my foot stays in place, and I got it so just 3 inches of my toe before the ball of my foot. So I'm hoping I can kind of. You know, if it's on a cushion, heck, you know, all stops are off, I'm okay up there. But if it goes to throttle control, it's a little different program.
What got you started driving race cars 58 years ago?
My father, he put me in a quarter midget when I was 4 and a half, and my first win was an Offie and Dad built the engines. My brother and I both drove it. The hood lifted up, and you slid the throttle, brake and throttle pedals forward or backwards. I was so little, and back in the 60s, we ran baseball diamonds at carnival grounds and so forth. So my dad had 3 big pillows behind my back, had me strapped in the pedals, and I was kind of sweet on the guy's daughter that was a trophy girl, just hay bales around her and stuff. So I was feeling pretty good. I was leading the race, coming off of 4, and I thought I'd give it a little pitch in the marbles up there. Well, she snapped around, corrected herself, drove through the hay bales, and knocked the trophy girls over and the trophies down. I was so embarrassed, and then I wet my pants. You talk about, I crawled down in that damn race car, and they were trying to pull me out, and I thought they're not getting, then they unstrapped the hood, and I was done then, so I had triple embarrassment. But yeah, Dad put me, and I ran the race when they called Sleepy Trip Sleepy out in the West Coast when he fell asleep waiting for his time to race. And gosh, Don, I mean, back when I was a kid, you couldn't, a girl couldn't even get in the pits. They weren't allowed in the pits.
Right.
Kids couldn't get in. I stopped driving quarter midgets at 16. There was nothing for me to run. I could run a midget with both parents' consent at 18 years of age, but I could not run a half mile. I had to be under a half mile at 18 with parents' consent. Then I had to be 21 without consent, and then you had to have a senior to verify that you could run competitively without being questioned. So it's a whole new ball game, but it is what it is today. It's a different deal. There's still a ton of great competitors out there, strong runners.
Yeah, a lot of these kids are really, there's some super talent.
The biggest problem I fight all the time, Don, when sometimes the kids will come over and they'll talk to me and say, what can you help me with? And the very first thing I'll do is I'll walk them to the racetrack, and I'll say, okay, now let's go over this. I said, so now where are you picking the throttle up? Where are you getting off the throttle? Where are you entering the corner? Where do you want to be when you're in the middle of the corner, and how are you getting off the corner? And I'll guarantee you, Don, half of them look at me like deer in headlights. I said, when you figure that out, then I can help you. You've got to slow down and pay attention, because if you drive 3 different grooves in 10 laps, your mechanic doesn't know, you can't get comfortable. Racing's momentum, consistency. It's crazy enough on a champ car, and Roy might agree with this, I would get to the point at like Phoenix or some of the big tracks, the engine RPM. You'd hear it go like up to 8,000 RPM, like, and all of a sudden you go 1, 2, 3, roll out of the throttle. 1, 2, 3. Sometimes a song, anything to get you in a rhythm, to get consistent, and put lap after lap after lap. And I tell these kids too, even if you're faster, don't go blowing in there. I had a gal at the Chili Bowl, and I'll keep her names out, but she runs sprint cars and tore stuff up, and I'm so damn old, I was in hot laps and my motor wasn't running off the bottom. And I hear this car like, rah, 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 rah. My God, what? So I just moved over. This car blows by me, and when it did, it almost up and hit the fence in 3 and 4, gathered it back up. So I walked down through the pits, and I see this car. And I thought, most of the kids don't want to hear from us guys. Oh, why don't you retire, you're old or whatever. But I really do have some good, data to give them sometimes. So yeah. Nelson Stewart was standing at the back of the trailer. So I thought, what the heck, I'll go up. How you doing, Nelson? So where we talked a little bit, and I said, who was driving that black 7 in the 14th hot lap? And this person leaning up against the trailer, well, I was. Oh, I said, so I like to do common sense things. I said, do you ever shoot pool? She looks at me with a cross face. I'm sorry, it was a girl driving it. She looks at me and said, no, you shoot pool. Do you ever shoot pool? Well, who hasn't? I said, okay, let's think of a scenario. It's your turn, your shot, right? And you walk up to the pool table, and there's a duck. Quack, quack. I mean, it's set right in front of the hole. You can put it in from anywhere. Now, how do you approach that table? Do you just put that duck in, and then when your cue ball stops, then you look for your second move? Because that's not how you race. That duck should be in your peripheral. You should look for another ply. Hit the other ball, and then when you're done with that cue ball, have it in position to take the duck. That's how you go forward to race. Because I said, that's how you're driving that race car, putting that duck and then wondering where the hell you're going after you get past the duck. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
He knows better than to give me a microphone. I'm waiting for a pedal on and off switch, and I can just push this switch and cut it off.
Well, I was going to say, did Nelson throw you out of the trailer, or did she say?
No, and then later on, I knew the one guy. He looked familiar, but there's times at Belleville I've seen people, they take pictures, they talk to you, but I can't remember all the names. He comes over, he says, Johnny, and I'll keep his name. He said who he was. I said, oh my God, you were with Sleepy Trip and Lindage back in the 80s when we did Thursday Night Thunders. And he said, I want to tell you, I appreciate talking to that girl, because he said she's tore up a bunch of sprint cars this year. And I said, well, set her. She doesn't. If you don't tell her or work with her, somebody's got to do it. And that's the problem nowadays. No, not the problem. I mean, gosh, when it was Jack Hewitt, Danny Smith, Frankie Kerr, Chuck Gurney, Ron Schumann, Jimmy Sills, I'd be ready to strap in for the 4-count sprint car race, and I could have a mental picture. When the green flag flew, I almost had a roadmap, what was going to happen. So we could set things up, but you knew who you could trust. You knew who you could go here. You know who you could go there. Nowadays, when we strap in cars, and Roy, this is the other thing, the biggest thing is you got to pay attention to your competition and see where they're at, because nowadays, when I was a kid, Nick Fanara Sr. was the flagman. And he came down to me and he said, Johnny, he says, you stay at this racetrack, it's fast. I don't want to see you within 6 feet of the outside wall. And I want you to be careful getting down to the bottom. And he says, until you're up to speed, you hold your line. And the problem nowadays, I refer to it again, racing nowadays, because I've been busted up a lot by kids throwing me the right rear tire at 120 mile an hour and just going in there and sliding right into me. It's like foosball. The ball comes and they punt it here, they punt it there. In the old days, we held a line. You knew you didn't move more than a groove or two because there's guys around you. And it's just a different technique. We just have to learn these drivers, learn what to do. But when you come into a group like this with a talent that's going to be here tomorrow night and Thursday, you got to kind of pay attention to your competition. AJ Falker said, you want to run my champ car at Salem. It was a dirt combo car. He just wanted to go there. It was 20 minutes away. His son wants to get involved in racing. Just go there, help me shake the car down, have some fun, blah, blah, blah. So we go there. And honestly, in the back of my mind, again, I'll keep names out, but I was running 10th, but the top guys, the top 5 were just blistering fast with their pavement cars, very fast. The radios didn't work, which was the only problem, but the flagman was doing a very good job and showing us move over flag and stuff. I went down a lap, and quite honestly, I looked at the scoreboard and saw the next 2 guys coming. I must admit, I wasn't sure if I didn't give them enough room that they'd feed me a right rear and stick me in the fence, give me a slap job. So I rolled way out of the throttle. I lost a lot more ground, but I was topped out at 10th place. That's where I was going to run that night. But those are the things. I don't know how much respect. Back when I first started with no roll cages and stuff, you respected that stuff. Nowadays, kids ran tear out with a champ car, and kid destroys a car in qualifying, and before the record brings a car and the tailgate's dropping another brand new car. They don't learn respect, but they're good drivers. They can drive. But I blame it on video games. They only drive like this instead of driving like that.
Do you still get excited when you go to a racetrack and you say, I'm going to get to run at the Speedway? Do you still get excited like you used to?
I absolutely. I mean, you think of the air we went through. 16th Street used to be right in the back stretch of the Speedway with the midgets. Then we had 16th Street Speedway, the dirt track down the road where Dave Cassidy got me a ride. My first race, I blew a motor, ran 3rd. I didn't have a ride. Well, the same guy I'm driving for, I get up the next morning, he was gone. He went back to Poughkeepsie, New York. And I already rented a house from Chris Cumberworth and was here for the summer. So I go down to Bob East. I said, I guess I got to find a job. And he says, well, I can use somebody. So I went to work for him. And then Tony George and Dave Cassidy put me together with Clabber Girl, Keith Wimberly, and we ran 2 years with them guys. And it's to be at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway and to be around. I had 7 phone calls in the last 5 days. Frankie Kerr, All-Star Sprint Car champion out in Ohio and so forth. He works with NASCAR. He's coming. Brian Slidell, URC champion. All these guys are coming in to watch the dirt race. And I think it's going to build into a really, really nice. And Levi was out there painting tires. I mean, USAC, they're all involved trying to make this thing run and work. And I think it's going to be a great deal. And did I see right? Is NBC broadcasting something?
I think I just heard something. Somebody just picked it up.
I mean, when was the last time a national broadcast was ever done? I mean, it's phenomenal.
Yeah, they got wind that there's something going on there, and there'll be a lot of people.
Yeah.
I understand that the ticket sales are into the 10,000 bracket somewhere in that area. Well, I'm sorry, 11. I was corrected again. I was wrong again. I know you didn't. Well, she'll tell me when I get home. You were wrong. See, I told you.
Well, the depth of the event is just phenomenal. I mean, people have been around racing like it looks like a lot of you folks are. Again, not just the drivers. I mean, Brad Knopfsinger's out there with stuff. Mike Gregg from out in Colorado. There's a ton of these teams, and the NASCAR guys will kind of come over. That used Andy Stapp, Steve's son. Blah. I mean, it's just endless. It really is endless.
I've got to warn you one thing. I just found this out. Howdy Bell's going to be in a car.
Great.
Unfortunately, they're going to have to put him on a gurney and slide him in.
Hey, you know what? When they came to get me at the hotel in 1990, and I told them I'm I'm going to sell my house, second mortgage it, 30 years, 2020. I'm going to put a serious effort into Chili Bowl and see if I can win it 30 years later. But when I came down with the flu, and I was staying at the hotel, they sent the one crew guy down to pick me up at 6 o'clock. And Ricky Stewart was my mechanic. And Tony Finley out of Colorado owned the car with a Fontana engine and stuff. And we had a little bit of the power poles in the pits. And I had to have a team meeting. I said, look, to Mr. Finley, his son was trying to kind of overshadow some things a little bit. And I said, look, you hired me to drive the car and do the best I could. You hired Rick Stewart to wrench the car, and you're here to pay the bills, and we're trying to do the best job we can. He couldn't find a half-inch wrench in the toolbox. I said, if you don't have a half-inch wrench in his hand, I'm not strapping in. The kid pulled it out of his back pocket and gave it to me. So, but, you know, it's this is going to be the same as like a Chili Bowl. I mean, it's just phenomenal.
And you won the Chili Bowl, so what's to stop?
Yeah.
I went to a midget race a couple weeks ago at Putnamville, and you didn't have an air pressure gauge, so I don't want to hear nothing about a half-inch wrench.
That's true. Roy, come down, help me. Hey, do you know how that turned out, Roy, too? I waited. Gerke was just a little quicker than me, and I was really good with the berm off of turn 2. And, you know, Putnamville, a lot of times you hang the right rear off the cushion, kind of get a run shot into turn 3. I waited to the last lap. Roy had to come down. I didn't have a tire gauge and a tape measure, and he went and bummed it from the guy next to me and helped me stooge the car and get it ready. And I come into 3, took the lead, and the yellow come out. So we did it all over again. This time Gerke was right. Again, he came alongside of me. I gave him room. I didn't root him out of the way, and he had the moisture coming off. But anyway, we tied, and Dick Jordan called me, and he says, John, he said, I want to tell you why you got second. Because I stopped on the front straightaway, and Gerke went off the track. And they said, no, you didn't win. Gerke did. And I said, oh, well, you know, you can't really stare at a start-finish line when you come across. I said, okay. So Dick called me. He said it was a great race, he says, but he said, you know why we made that call? I said, why is that? And it made a lot of sense. He said, well, Gerke led the whole race, and at the end, all you did was tie him. You didn't pass him. So because it was a tie, him leading the laps previous gives him the win. And I never heard that, but common sense, it makes sense in a way. But thanks, Roy. I mean, yeah, I didn't. He was measuring the tire, borrowed a tire gauge, and was putting my stagger in the car while I was strapping in for the feature.
It's a good thing he showed up then, wasn't it?
See that? I mean, the racing fraternity is a family. I mean, you cross paths, you know, the rest of your whole life. I mean,
when I first started following the cars back in the '60s, well, you weren't even born yet. You know, they go to the racetrack, and in fact, midget drivers, particularly sprint car drivers, they drive 75, 80, 100 times. I mean, you could run Wednesday through Sunday, every night if you wanted to run. And the guys would have a little discussion on the track, and they'd settle it in the parking lot. Mm-hmm. But that night or the next morning when they needed to borrow parts, the guy'd give them to you.
Yep.
You might have to limp over to get them, but,
yep.
You know, they worked with each other, but they used to kind of get upset with each other. You might say. But racing's changed a bit, and you said you still get excited at the thought of, I'm going to be in a car tomorrow.
Oh, absolutely. The hardest thing is your game plan. I mean, the toughest thing for me the last couple of years is in Pennsylvania, my heyday, I had 3 guys that I sold insurance from 8:30 in the morning to 5:30 at night. Then I went in and tended bar from 8 o'clock at night till 3 in the morning. And these kids nowadays, they say they have no money. I did that for 17 years straight, 5 days a week. You know, and these kids only want to get a job. But, you know, so I don't want to hear those crying. But I had 3 guys that busted their tail, and I'd stop at the shop for those couple hours between, just go home and get a shower. They worked on those cars, helped me, bought their own pit passes, paid for their own meals, everything on them. They just wanted to help. I moved to Indy, and it's like now the system is they want $100 to just lean on the car and push you on the track. I mean, you know, it's just gotten to the point where, I hate to say it, but corporate America kind of spoiled the sport. It did. It used to be the racer sport, but it is what it is. And there's still a lot of good things to do. We just got to figure out a different way to how to skin the rabbit now, that's all.
I was just given the inside scoop, NBC Sports Network to broadcast the BC 39 September 7th, Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Be a 1-hour recap of the day's events.
Nice.
So everything.
I mean, that's phenomenal. Yeah, that's great. So hats off to IMS. I mean, what more can you do? They gave us the opportunity. It's up to the fans, up to the drivers, up to the mechanics, the teams to step up. And the first year is going to be a learning curve, but I really think it's going to build. I'll do my best to try to help support it and bring even more cars next year.
Do you have a full-time job now, tending bar from 8 to 3 or anything?
No, now I got a cushy job. I got a credit card and a company vehicle with Skip, and I buy lunches and talk about race car parts.
Really?
Yeah, for seals.
Really?
Well, my seals at Ellington, Connecticut. Everything's made in the United States. We have airbox injector seals, firewall grommets, axle seals, all NASCAR, and so on and so forth.
What was your favorite track over the years? I mean, you've probably been to every short track in America by now. Is there one that fit you better than others, or several that fit you?
Well, most of my career, what got my attention in the Midwest is I came to the Indy Mile with a car where Kevin Olson for Wilkes had won Springfield, won all the big tracks, and I came in there with my open trailer, my little van, and a couple of spare tires, and we must admit, I don't like to brag, we smoked them by a full straightaway, and got their attention. Then we went to Eldora TV night, Thursday night Thunder deal, and I took my Doug Shaw reverse arm sprint car, wing car that I run at Selinsgrove, Williamsgrove, Port Royal back in PA. All we did was take the wing off of it. I called Doug Shaw. He told me where to block the car. And they laughed at me when I pulled out of Bloomsburg. They said, well, we'll see you when you get home after you miss the show and this and that. And it was just one of those fairy tale deals. We unloaded, and what I had to laugh about, it was tape delayed for TV. But we broke the track record, and we're sitting on the pole with the car. So running second in the feature and blew a tire. I tugged the wall off of two, and they just don't make tires like they used to. The sidewall was only this thick, and it kind of cut a hole in it. But no, racing, I mean, when this car accident, they had me through all kinds of things, and they even sent me to a shrink for some of my, I got frequent flyers. You talked about Roy and helicopter. I got 7 helicopter rides, and people pick on me, but I said, if you're going fast, crashing's going to be ugly. I mean, if you're not going fast, it's not too bad. So
you just bounce. Yeah.
So I told Randy LaJoy and Chris down there. I said, I'd have been going like Robert Ballou's favorite saying, I'm here for a good time, not a long time. But if it wouldn't be for these full containment seats and so forth, I probably wouldn't be here. But now they've put all this safety stuff in place. Heck, I'm probably going to end up in a wheelchair, and I'm going to put me in like a 10 horsepower Briggs & Stratton. And I'm going to go through the pits. I'm going to say, well, you dumbass, why you put right rear in that car? What's the matter with you? I'm going to live out the dream at the end.
Well, you started in Pennsylvania. You ran up in the Northeast in your first years of your career. How long did you run there before you moved this way and said, this is more fun here?
I've been here 20 years now. I waited quite a long time. The insurance agency, I was supposed to buy him out and take over the agency. I went there out of high school, and it was good money. And when I went to take it over, the company wanted to sell it to another guy in town and merge instead of having 2 agencies, and they kind of backdoored me. My girlfriend of 10 years, fiance of 2, our marriage lasted 30 days, and she didn't want to go to racetracks anymore. So she went to Florida, of all things, had an affair with the bartender. I said, well, hey, I was not your first guy, but now you're married. It should be a little more, faithful than that. But anyway, so I moved to India. I just came out here when 16th Street opened up, and having a great time.
When I found out, it dawned on me last night. We were at a party having great steaks, and Jingle Bells.
Hers was better.
Yeah, I guess. Jingle Bells was there with a full jug of vodka and something. I thought you could take a bath in the damn stuff, but it dawned on me, Hot Rod is here. He's going to run this. I know one person knows how to get a hold of it. It sure as hell wasn't me, so I called Linda. And she was in the middle of whatever it was she does on whatever night it was, Monday night. And she said, I'll get a hold of him and see if he's available. So she called me back. She said, yeah, he'll be there. So I sent her an email. I said, give me a little bit of his bio, because I couldn't find anything. Google had nothing. They have stuff on me, but they didn't have much on you. I went, geez, Louise. So can you send me something? No, I've got my job. So I made up some stuff.
That's more fun anyway.
Yeah, well, I said you were starting in the Northeast. That was true. Yeah. You came here. What I forgot about was you having won the Chili Bowl. I forgot that.
Yeah, Chili Bowl, the Hot 100. You say about tracks, I guess I got sidetracked. My brain sometimes, it gets scattered. But, it's kind of like those computers when you defrag them. But what happened is some of those helicopter rides I took, my filing cabinets fell over and all the shit got mixed up. So I just, pieces, all of a sudden pieces will fly by. And I'm like, ooh, that's a good one. I got to tell you that one, or something. But now, see, I almost forgot. But no, One of my favorite tracks. I was very successful, over 40-some wins, and the winningest guy at an old fairgrounds track, Flemington, New Jersey. It was my style, just absolutely wide open. Hit the guardrail, hit the guard, just wide open and go. And of course, Williams Grove is a great track. Port Royal. Selinsgrove is actually a little more of a favorite of mine than the Grove, because the Grove, the turns are a little more like a hairpin. And Selinsgrove, you can really carry momentum, like Manzanita out in California. You can really carry a lot of speed. And I like the speed. I'm not real good at they ran Putnamville in a TQ a couple of weeks ago, and it was on the bottom, and I was running second, and like 4 or 5 to go, and I thought, damn, I said second. I came here to try to win, and I thought, look at all that racetrack up there. I saw Blue and them guys on the fence and with their sprint cars, and so I hauled her down into one. I got that sucker turned past the start-finish line, and I'm over in the right rear, and all of a sudden I look down, there's 3 guys going right behind me on the bottom. I said, son of a gun. So I fought my way back to fourth, but God, you were talking about Pierce Chevrolet. I'm sorry, the 4 Crowns, we're running the Silver Crown cars, and Bob East one time. Tracy Hines won the midget feature at Eldora in the middle to the bottom of the racetrack. Bob got off the trailer and went to off the top of the trail and went to the truck, and Kelly says, Bob, where are you going? Aren't you going out in the front stretch? He says, you don't win Eldora on the bottom. He wouldn't even go out. But Aaron Pierce, I was running fourth, and I'm looking down, and I thought, like a gnat, like what the hell do I see? Keep seeing down there in the bottom. They must be going to pits, but they've been alongside me a couple of laps now, and pretty soon there was Aaron Pierce on the flat against the inside guardrail. He snuck by me, so I call him. I get his voicemail. I said, this is the Ohio Fish and Game Commission. We heard you were fishing at Eldora without a license. That's what I love about this. Yeah, hey, and I hate to say, nowadays with all the fancy rigs and the trucks and the trailers, open trailers, I remember Little Valley Fairgrounds. We ran a lot of fairgrounds back in the days, and that's just what it was back then. But this one guy I drove for, he's a tomato farmer. And when we got done, he dropped the tailgate in the station wagon. He brought out 6 salt shakers and 2 bushels of tomatoes. And everybody sat there, and we'd salt up those tomatoes and sat there and eat raw tomatoes and BS and talk about the night and so forth. And it was just great.
Well, I think you've convinced everybody here to come and watch you run tomorrow.
Oh, I'm telling you, thanks. They did a great job. You're going to see the way the track's laid out. Mark my words, you'll see some really good aggressive slide jobs in 1 and 2, and in 3 and 4, and it's just got the Rico Brews, the Stocktons, all the guys that are out there are just really good, talented race car drivers, really good equipment, and it should be a really great show.
How much you and Roy have been running for a few years? How much does experience count in a race like this?
Well, we are, with the SB2, as Roy said, we're probably down 40 horsepower or so, but I'm not sure on the grip. It's dirt. It's not really clay. The hard part is I think the Gerties might have enough torque off the corner, but it could turn out, if it slicks off, it could turn out more to a high RPM running motor like the Mopars and stuff, where it's not so much the water pump or torque, it's more of the momentum deal. But depending on what type of cushion, if they give us a heavy cushion that I can take that water pumper up there and let her eat and not pull down, the higher RPM motors and Mopars aren't going to be quite as stout on a heavy cushion. So it just depends on conditions at this point, and they'll work with that, I'm sure, down the road. Right now it's just come out and see. It's like they always used to call me, I'm the wild card. They never knew what the hell I was going to do. I could be competitive, but it could be exciting. But just they keep one eye on me anyway. Well, I don't give up, Don. I keep her down.
You don't. You keep chugging. I got to take my hat off to you, but even though I don't have one. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to come here. Look forward to seeing you, and I'm sure that if it gets quiet, we'll hear you as well. Destructing something to do. And by the way, there's another driver you got to keep an eye on. He's a local kid. He thinks he's a broadcaster now. I'm surprised that he's going to get himself dirty. But Dylan Welch will be part of the field tomorrow night. And it just so happens that Grandma and Grandpa invited him for dinner and buy him a couple of brewskis, and he didn't show up. So I think I'm going to go over and take up their offer. I'll pretend I'm him. Thanks for being here. It's always a pleasure to see you. Haven't seen you in a while. Look forward to it. And since you're still around here every once in a while, you might hear from me.
That sounds good.
Before you leave, I got to get your number because I can't call Linda all the time. After a while, she won't answer.
Yeah. Restart Communications. She's
Yeah.
got it all.
Yeah.
She does a great job for Gas City. Wasn't it great to see Gas City come back into the picture
yeah.
again?
Yeah,
And
Jerry's
did a great
doing-
job down. A lot of good racing and so
Yeah,
forth.
Jerry's
so-
doing
Yep.
really turned the place around.
Yep, and Scott Petrie out here at IMS and Reeves from down there at Kokomo. It's going to be a great deal, you know.
Looking forward to seeing you in action.
Thank you. Hope to see you guys out there.
The man they call the Hot Rod, Johnny Heidenreich. I want to thank him. I want to thank Roy, of course. I want to thank Mac McClellan for being here, and we're going to have him in talk about his next project when he gets his surgery done. I suspect it'll be after that. And if any luck, if I talk nice, maybe he'll bring Heidi with him again. I hope. Till the next week, and we're working on a couple of drivers and some things I got in mind to do, because don't forget the final race of the year from Sonoma, California this weekend, Friday, Saturday, with a race on Sunday. Uh-oh, got a hanky. It's upside down. Eileen has 8 suite tickets for Sunday's Brickyard 400 at discounted price of $100 each. Includes food, beverage, live circuit TV, air conditioning. God, you'll need that. Really good price. Can't beat it. Tower Terrace. Parking pass for every 4 sold. That's 2 of them. You can give her a call. The number is 317. I'm going to write this down. Oh, no, Carl will answer the phone. Forget it. 317-847-1616. That's 317-847-1616. 8 sweet tickets available. $100. Comes with food, beverage, and I bet I know what kind of beverage you might get too. Live. $100. She wants to go. Ted, where the hell did Ted go? Oh, he's not listening. He's on the phone. Okay. Anyway, you want to give her a call? Sweet tickets, 317-847-1616. Don't forget the Big Machine Vodka Brickyard 400 this Sunday. Dirt track racing tomorrow and Thursday. Thanks for being here. If you want to know who the guests are, go to my website, autosportradio.com, and the guests will be up there. You look up Auto Show on the tab and look for it. Till next week, Don Kay saying thanks for watching, thanks for listening, thanks for being here. Good night. You answer your own phone?